Life is amazing. I am freaking out right now. I'm not going to lie, because I haven't seen my next guests in decades, and I could not be more thrilled to be able to welcome them in as a guest here in Los Angeles, California. We all know about the Home Run Derby and the All-Star Game, but it's also ESPYs Week here in Los Angeles, California. And the Jimmy V Award for Perseverance is going to go to Dick Vitale, and it was an award that was won by my guy, Stuart Scott, before his passing. And joining us today on what would have been their father's 57th birthday are none other than his two wonderful daughters, Taelor and Sydney Scott, here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you ladies doing? Good to see you guys.
We're doing great. We're so blessed to be here. Thank you.
Yes, good to see you. It has been a very long time. We're really excited to be here.
It's been 19 years since ESPN handed me a cardboard box, and I think that I might have seen you maybe just shortly before that. It's unbelievable.
I appreciate. I know you bought some of my Girl Scout cookies. That really made a difference with my troop, and so. Thank you. I mean, it was decades ago.
Exactly.
I would never have come here had you not really cared about the Girl Scouts.
Two Columbia grads I've got here on this program right now. So, let's just jump into it. What do you think of when you think of your dad? Let's start with that. How about that one, Taelor Scott?
Of an example. I think that with him, it's difficult because he's not here to be an active example, but I do love that I get to hear stories about him from people all the time. And those give me perspective now that I'm older that I didn't have as a child. And so it's really, there are things that his friends and his family members bring to us that are something I wouldn't have gotten, when I did get to know him. And now that I'm, older, closer to the age he was when he started in the field, I feel a lot of encouragement from the people who can give me the messages that he would have given me.
What about you, Sydney?
Yeah, I think so. It's so interesting for me because there's so many things that I've experienced in life. Just graduated college, and I can sort of hear his voice in the back of my head with the kind of thing that he would have said. Something fantastic happens, something terrible happens, and I can sort of imagine like how he would have responded. And I think for him to have left such a vivacious personality that, we talk sometimes like something happens, we see something on Twitter, whatever, and we're like, Dad would have been, he would have had something to say about this. And so it's really, with everything that Taelor added, with people sharing stories and continuing to like learn about who he was as a person, even in these years since he's been gone, it's so special.
Well, I think of him when big time sporting events happen.
Yep.
Anytime the NBA finals hit, I think of him. Boy, did I think of him with the Final Four, Carolina playing Duke. Oh my God.
That was intense.
He would have lost his mind.
Yes, he would have. And here's the thing. It was a very good thing that we were all watching together because he had his superstitions where growing up, when my mom and my dad would like watch a sports game together, especially if it was Carolina, maybe it was only Carolina, but especially if it was Carolina.
Yes.
And my mom went and, to the bathroom, got up and left, and Carolina started winning. He was like, you can't come back.
You have to stay out of the room.
You got to stay out. Yeah, I'm sorry. You can't come back. So that game, I don't even know what we all would have been subjected to.
But I mean, the biggest Carolina Duke game ever. There will never be a bigger one unless somehow, some way, John Schreier, right, the new coach of Duke, stays for 50 years and becomes the greatest coach in the history of the school. Exactly. And then they play in the last game.
Yep.
Somehow they play in the last game.
It was once in a lifetime.
And I honestly, I think of him whenever, like, say, big stories occur, like Kaepernick. I wonder what Stuart would say about, what your dad would say about what's happened with Colin Kaepernick. I think about him all the time. I mean, absolutely all the time. And I've got tons of stories. I mean,
listen, we love to hear them.
We love to hear them.
Well, I mean, and the neat thing too is because again, I met you obviously. I know it's stupid to say, but before your younger sister, but you gotta put the photograph up. I have this every now and then.
Oh my goodness!
This was at a Jimmy V. This was at the Jimmy V golf tournament years ago. I think that's what it was. If I had to guess, and there you are, Taelor, in your dad's hands. You're holding a balloon.
Yep.
And I mean, I'm standing right there, and with all due respect, I don't recall too many details of this. But I just remember how much he loved you guys too, and I just know, and now I'll get deep. I don't care. I'm now a girl dad, and
You know.
I know. But here's the thing about your dad that I always remember too. He's I think about his love of life, his love of being himself, and I'm not saying that as if he had an ego. I mean, we all do, but just he loved being who he was and letting everyone know who he was and living his life as that, and certainly on the air. And I just remember his pridefulness, his competitive nature. I remember all of that. And then, of course, I just, his love of you guys. I just remember that. And I think about that every time I look at my daughter, too. This is a fact.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sharing, I'm unburdening
no,
right now with you guys.
Please, no, it's beautiful.
And that's the greatest gift, I think, is the pride in being yourself, such that you allow the others around you to be like, hey, it's okay for you to also be yourself. Here, I am doing it. It's okay. Who you are, even if you're just trying, there is acceptance here for that. And I feel like that is the greatest gift that can be. Listen, it is especially your father who brings that to the table for you.
I've got Taelor and Sydney Scott here, the daughters of Stuart Scott, on, again, what would have been his 57th birthday, and it's ESPYs week here in Los Angeles, California. So I'll just throw it up into you. What story, if you want to go first, Taelor, or you, Sydney, however you want, what story about your dad that you have heard that you'd never known before that's suddenly become your favorite from somebody? You got something on that? You've run into somebody's, whether it was a fan or somebody that he covered or anything like that? You got something like that?
So here's the thing. There are definitely a couple of funny ones that I have learned over the past couple of years, and some of them have been from like friends, family members about his college days that they were like, we could not share this with you before you yourself was in college.
And now you have come of age.
Now you've come of age. So there have definitely been some really funny ones. But I think, honestly, what have been the most special and the most interesting ones to me is I cannot tell you how many people have come up to me and said, I met your dad at an airport, in line at a fast food place,
Right.
wherever it may be. And they were like, oh, they gave their little spiel. They're like, I watched you growing up. I was so inspired by you. I want to go into broadcast. I want to go into sports journalism, like all of these different things. And they would talk about how he took, whatever couple of minutes out of his day to talk to them and to share about his experience and to give whatever advice he might have had. And
Yes.
I think, it's something that, it's like, that's kind, that's nice. But the overwhelming number, like just the fact that he was out in public and just like minding his own business and just like so enthusiastic and ready and willing to share like his experiences and his joy and his like all of those different things.
He had a lot of energy.
He had a lot of energy, and it's really, really special to know that, this isn't just something that he was reserved for either the camera or for his family, but like this is who he was 24/7. Always.
Yep. And so many people think that you see somebody who's successful with a personality on television, it's an act.
Yep.
Oh my God, no. I mean, the Stuart Scott that everybody saw on television is exactly the guy that you would meet anywhere.
Yep.
I totally wholeheartedly endorse that message.
Yep.
What about you, Taelor? You got any good story that you want to share?
I like hearing about his college days. And I also like hearing about, I think what was interesting for me is that a lot of his friends' kids were younger than me. And so I called you Uncle Rich. There was, Uncle Kenny. Everyone's my uncle. I thought you all were my friends because there was no other children around. I thought that it's really wonderful because I remember him. He used to talk about, I was thinking recently about SVP, Scott Van Pelt. He was like, I cannot wait until he is a father. He's going to be such a great father. And there's like this nerdiness about loving being a dad. And it was humiliating to me because he would just show all of my most private moments on his phone recorded to all of his friends.
Yes.
But I do now, with a little bit of space from that, I love the excitement that he had about, I get to do this thing and it is what I love. And I can't wait to see my male friends get to the place where they also know what this feels like.
Well, I've got two stories for you. Okay, here we go. And I've told them on this show every now and then, but I've got a personal one, and then I've got, they're both, off camera, but there's one about me and my wife, Susie, who I met at ESPN. And then there's one out and about. Which one do you want to hear first? The out and about?
Out and about.
Out and about. I'm going to tell the story, Chris.
It's one of my favorite stories.
Two Stuart Scott's daughters, okay? Taelor and Sydney here. Here we go. So it's the All-Star game in New York City. NBA All-Star game. I think it was 99. I think it was, right? It's the famous one where Kobe Bryant's waving Karl Malone off the blocks. It was discussed in The Last Dance, that documentary. Okay, so it's New York City. And Stuart and I, your dad and I, are doing an 11 o'clock Eastern SportsCenter. Okay, and for some reason, we got stuck doing it on a Friday night, which never really used to happen. Friday night, 11 o'clock Eastern SportsCenter, and there was an event that was going on in New York City that night at the old All-Star Cafe, which was the restaurant that Shaq and Wayne Gretzky owned, and Ken Griffey Jr., I think, had all a big stake in it. And so we wanted to go, but the problem is that we couldn't leave the set until midnight. And we're like, should we do it? Should we do it? And your dad's like, what do you mean, should we do it? Absolutely, we're going to do it. So we got a car, a car. And we hopped in a car. The two of us sat in the back of a car, and we were driven to New York City, and it took 2 hours to get there.
Ooh.
It's 2 a.m, and we pull into Times Square, and everybody's leaving the party. The party's over. We get all the way down, the party's over. Your dad tells the driver to stop in the middle of Broadway, in the middle of Times Square. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm going to ask the cop where everyone's going next. And I'm like, why would the cop know? And he looks at me and goes, why wouldn't he know?
Gotta figure out.
And I'm like, Stuart, we can't stop the car in the middle of Times Square. He goes, basically gave me a look of like, watch me.
Yeah, we can.
So he gets out. And the cop knows exactly who he is. Like, you could just read the body language.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not hearing what he's saying.
Yeah.
But you could see, and the cop's like giving him directions. And so your dad comes back and he says to me, get out of the car. I know where we're going next. And I'm like, where are we going next? And he goes, he gave me this look at like, will you shut up?
It's a night out with the boys.
I'm like,
Exactly.
it's a night out with the boys.
After
I'm like the nervous Jewish kid from Staten Island, New York. And he gives me a look like, just shut up. Let's go. Stop overthinking it.
Yep.
So I'm going to tell this story. Chris, it's great.
It's great. It's great. It's an all-time punchline.
Okay. So we're now walking down Times Square and now walking to the west side of Manhattan in a spot I've never been in my entire life. And I'll be very honest, as we're walking further and further west, I am the only white guy on the street. And your dad is walking down the street, and everybody is stopping us every 2 minutes. And suddenly there's now dozens of people following us. Dozens.
Trying to go to the after party.
Dozens of people following us because they know, right? And so finally we keep walking, and one last guy stops, and he says to your dad, okay, like I'll look at you, Taylor. You're your dad, and Sydney, you're me. And so he says, "Oh my God, it's Stuart Scott." And he looks at me and he goes, "And the white guy."
That's beautiful.
The white guy.
Here's the thing. That's the appreciation, though. He said, "Wait, hold up. I know who this is too."
The white guy.
His white guy.
Exactly.
Our white guy.
Exactly.
And the white guy.
That was high praise.
I was the white guy. And to say that your dad couldn't have loved that moment more.
I'm sure.
All right,
Oh my
so
God.
Here's the personal one.
Oh my God.
Here's the personal one here. Okay.
Yeah.
So I met my wife Susie at ESPN.
How many years together now?
Oh God, we're married 19. But we met in '96 when I first arrived, and it took a while for DJ's laughing already. It took a while for Susie and I to start becoming an item. We were you're laughing at that.
God.
It's the truth.
It was a slow burn.
That's one way of putting it.
Slow burn relationship.
We were just just friends for a while. I wanted to be more than just friends for a while, and your dad knew that, and he loved my wife, Susie Schuster, who he called S squared. Mm-hmm. Okay. So he would constantly go up to S squared and kind of like say, why don't you like I, he would play us towards the middle all the time. Okay. And, you see when I was a little bit down on it, just like, yeah, come on, just keep it going. Everything you talked about your dad, like wanting people to have families and start, like, you should be a dad and all that stuff. Exactly. So he's just like, keep going. Like, don't give up.
Get in there. Get in
come
there.
on, man. Come on. And so we obviously became an item, and then we got married. And there's an incredible photograph from our wedding day, okay, where your dad looks at me and looks at my wedding ring on my hand, and he's smiling, and the look said two things. One was essentially, I told you so. Okay. And the other one was, we did it.
Yep.
You said we as a
But,
team.
like
we
basically,
did this.
like you could see, he gets this look on his face, like we did it.
Here's the thing, that
We
doesn't
did it.
surprise me.
He was like, we're in it together.
Yep,
We're in
because
it
he
together.
had the most, like he had the story of how he and my mom met,
Yes.
and he would always talk about the woman who introduced them, and he would tell it over and over and over again. So now knowing how important that story was to him, I know that he in his head was like, that was
I
me.
gotta pay it back.
I was the instrumental role here. Like we together did this.
Like literally, he
I'm so
definitely.
glad I helped create
I
Rich
know,
Eisen
right?
No,
Show.
honestly, no, and there's
course he did.
honestly, we did it. Like
did
that.
it.
That's the way he
was
would take the
proud.
approach.
Yeah.
Who's proud?
And then again, the fact that we had so many incredible moments together on TV, meshing our two different upbringings and our two different pop culture, landscapes
Yeah.
as one,
Yeah.
team and unit. He'd call me, no offense, came like his TV wife, like I was his TV wife, is how he referred to
Little
me.
competition.
Of course, he was the male in that equation. So. But at any rate, Taelor and Sydney Scott here on the Rich Eisen Show. Okay, so let's talk about the future. What's going on with your dad and the foundation that has been born out of his message and his remarkable speech that will live forever, for the Jimmy V Award for Perseverance. What's the latest, and how can people get involved? What's going on?
We're so grateful for the V Foundation, not only because that's something that we grew up knowing, that my father was like, this is the amount of time I commit to this because it is important. It's important for people's lives before it personally affected us on any level. But the fact that they, are so much at the forefront of this research, but also have taken the time to realize that there are health disparities in the care industry and also in the science that's being done. And by ameliorating those differences, really everyone benefits from that. It's a future for everyone. I have such gratitude and such admiration for that. And so for us, kind of whatever we can do to help proliferate that message and also spread awareness about, we love our dad. People love their dad. We want to see families together for as long as possible because that's what's important.
So here's what we have going on, Scoops for Stu. Taelor and I started this, it was honestly it kind of came about organically.
Yes, we like ice cream.
We like ice cream. That was the place to start.
Our father took us to get ice cream.
Yep.
When we were good.
And now National Ice Cream Day is 2 days before his birthday.
Exactly.
timing.
And so it worked out so well. And
Right.
it was it was something where it was the first year after he'd passed, and we were trying to find something to really to celebrate his memory, but also to sort of be able to feel that for ourselves.
And share it with other people.
And share it with other people, exactly. And so Scoops for Stu was born. It's essentially an awareness-raising campaign where everybody's supposed to go out, favorite ice cream shop, get your ice cream, and post it on social media with
a
the
virtual
hashtag.
ice cream party.
Exactly, little virtual ice cream party. And it's honestly something that's so special. Taelor has a really great story about a time that we went to this ice cream shop in our where we were growing up, and he went in, and he did this a couple times. He would do it at drive-through sometimes, but this particular day, he went in and we paid for our ice cream, then he paid for the people behind us, and he'd done it before. He just said, it was just something that he kind of
wanted to hammer home the idea of always paying it forward.
Exactly. And so the next time we went into that ice cream shop, they basically told us, they were like, you guys, last time you were here, that kept going on all day. Like all day long, everyone paid, the people in front paid for the people behind them. They'd had theirs paid for it, and they continued it. And it was just, it was really, it was really funny. It was strange to think that something so little and so, nonchalant,
inconsequential had ripples.
Yeah, exactly. And so, it was this really beautiful act of care, I think, as well, to know that these are utter strangers behind you. You have no idea who they are. And you're willing to put down something in order to pay it forward. And so that has become a huge part of why we do this, because it is about paying it forward and enjoying ice cream, obviously.
It was a great parenting moment. And
Yes,
how
exactly. I
do
know,
we
right? What a great moment. He killed
deliver
it on
that. He really
one.
did. That was A+ parenting, A+ fatherhood.
Right?
But it's how can we continue to embody that and move in that spirit?
Yeah, exactly. So that's the hope that we have for everyone, is go out, have some ice cream, enjoy time with your friends, family.
And then if you get a chance, definitely donate to the organization,
Yes.
the Stuart Scott Cancer Memorial Research Fund. I would definitely like to say that that is something that has given me so much hope since my father's passing, because I am not a scientist, and it does seem very bleak to look at the future of medicine and not have an answer. I really have been so encouraged by meeting different V scholars, scientists who have been grant recipients from my father's organization, because they really do have the step-by-step process of, even though this is difficult now, it is not as difficult as it was 5 years ago. What people went through 5 years ago, that is paid forward. Like, our father was very adamant about participating in clinical trials. And he said, even if this does not save me, it's not just my life that's on the line here. It's that there needs to be life going forward after me. And that is something that I am deeply touched by. And that when there seems like there is nothing to go forward for, that is something.
And that's at vfoundation.org.
Yes.
Is that how people can find the portal?
Yes.
Yes.
And it is the Stuart Scott Cancer Memorial Research Fund.
Yes.
I think there's a little tag. There's a link.
Yep.
There's a link right there. And
Yeah.
you got some names you want to throw out right
I
there?
did. I did want to thank Melody Smith. She's a doctor. She's a V-Fund scholar. Jasmine McDonald is a grant recipient as well. And Professor Olapade, I had the wonderful opportunity to meet her and her family. Her husband is also a doctor. And her whole family, they very much are pro encouraging people to know more about their medical profile. What will I face? What did my family members face? All of these things. I hadn't had a concrete way of thinking, cancer is this destructive thing and it's always going to be destructive. And her work about how looking for genetic and non-genetic markers of tumors and proclivities, those are the things that I'm not the smart one doing it, but there is someone who is dedicating every day to making sure that in 10 years, people can be diagnosed with appendiceal cancer and they can get more than 7 years after that.
Yep. Yeah.
vfoundation.org, and make sure that the Stuart Scott Memorial Fund is well funded. Liz, let's bring it in here. Okay, so here we go.
Oh.
We have scoops.
Okay.
Oh my, we've been good. What did we do to deserve this?
I know. My,
We've got vanilla and chocolate. You want a little bit of both? Is
Yes.
That okay, and we even got a scooper.
all right. Let's see.
Here, I'll do it. You stay there. I got it.
Okay. We'll be. This is nice. Okay, we've got the whipped cream,
We're gonna do
chocolate sauce
this.
on top.
Oh yeah.
This is
You know how to throw an ice cream
exactly,
party.
exactly. This is how we'll start off our day. This
Scoops
is
for
the perfect way to
Stu.
do it.
It's been out, so it'll be easy for me to scoop. I'm sorry, I'm getting big portions here.
No, perfect.
Listen,
Okay.
don't ever apologize.
We've been good.
All right, you guys want whipped cream too? Is
Yeah.
that good? Okay,
Yes,
the whole
absolutely.
thing.
Go all
out.
Chocolate Sunday drink.
You want chocolate? I'm
Yeah.
all good without the chocolate sauce, but
I love chocolate.
Yep,
All right, so here we go. Here's just one with whipped cream.
perfect.
Wow.
Here we
Perfect.
go.
This feels like my favorite birthday party.
Tay, you want
I
to
know,
pass
right?
it? Tay,
Exactly.
pass that to Sid.
Thank
This
Tay.
is for you, my
Okay,
queen.
perfect.
All right, so now this is for you.
Okay, this is exactly what I needed
Tay.
today.
Ooh, and this is some good ice cream too.
It is. Yep.
I hope so. I don't know. If it's coming out of the budget, it's great. All right.
We're honored.
You want the chocolate sauce too?
Yes, let's do some chocolate sauce.
So I guess I should say this. I feel like I've been telling stories, and I'd like to be talking with you instead of just telling you, but I'll do it anyway.
Yeah.
Here you go, Tay.
Thank you so much.
Perfect for me to tell you this while I'm scooping out.
Oh, perfect.
Do you want some ice cream, Chris?
Yeah, I'll come get some after. Yeah,
All right, here we go. So, Mike, you too, and TJ, I don't want to leave you out. You want some ice cream, guys? Okay, very good.
Love an ice cream party.
Everybody.
I just will say this. It's wild to me that your dad is remembered as a groundbreaker, an iconoclast, a legend. And I'm saying that because I had a front row seat to the way it all started. And I was there quite a bit when your dad felt anything but, like Stuart Scott felt anything but in real time as a groundbreaker and an iconoclast. He was literally just being himself.
Yep.
And this is the message I would give to anybody, is that you just keep believing in yourself. You keep believing in yourself and who you are and how you're going about it, and let the chips fall. And I think if we had told him back in the day, from 96 to 03 when I was there and I was doing SportsCenter with your dad, if I was telling him, hey, one day you are going to be remembered as the guy who broke ground and absolutely reinvented the way a lot of people did our job. Yeah. And you will be remembered that forever. And there will be legions of people who would be wanting to be you, and they're imitators of you, essentially. If I told him that, he would have had two answers. One of them would have just get out of here. And the other two would have been damn straight. He'd have been like, damn straight. That's how I'm going to be remembered.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, and that's not why he was doing it.
Yep.
That's not the motivation for doing it while he's doing it. The motivation is he's just having fun and he wanted to be successful and he was competitive. But he'd be like, damn straight.
Yep.
I would be. But also he'd be just like, get out of here. Because there were times where he wasn't made to feel that way.
Yep.
To be honest. And so that is one of the tales I like to tell about Stuart Scott, your dad, is that, you know, so many people don't believe in what they're told no, or they're told you're not doing it right, or you're not doing it a certain way. And you just pay no attention to that, you know? And he would be, I'm sure you know this anyway, too. I'm probably the latest person to say he's so proud of you both.
I appreciate that.
That is the truth.
That is definitely what I can relate to most, being, you know, mid-20s. I can't relate to my father's success at all.
Right.
Because that's, you know, it doesn't even make sense to me, but I can relate to just doing what you do and loving it and failing at it over and over and constantly getting criticism for it, and knowing that whether you succeed or fail, or whether your producer likes you best or likes someone else best, it really is about, he had a conviction that there was a way that news could be told that would reach people.
Yeah.
And so he was willing to kind of sacrifice whether or not, you know, he got some flack. That is the most inspiring thing, is to be like, find what is worth working for.
Yeah.
And keep your head down about it. And so I feel like that, I love the idea that he could be like, absolutely, that would be me. I'm going to have an impact.
Yeah.
But it comes from that conviction in knowing that his work was worthwhile.
Yep. I remember, because a lot of times, you know, growing up, he would tell us, he would be like, I worked so hard. I was driven. I put in every ounce of myself into this, but I was also lucky, you know, like he also was in the right place at the right time at some point to get this opportunity. And so
to work with me, you're saying, or
exactly.
Okay.
He was like, it all boils down right here.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That was the Ian, Rich. The Ian Eisen.
Exactly.
No, but I had a front row seat for that, Sydney. I had a front row seat for all of that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I really, really did. And he worked his ass off.
Yep.
He really did. But then there would be times where he kind of felt down about it.
Yep.
And it was really odd to see, because he was up about absolutely everything.
Yep.
You know.
What did you say to him?
What did I say to him? Sometimes I would tell him, in all honesty, just like, what do you care? And then he would kind of give me that look saying, yeah, but you come with a different set of, you know, tools, resources, or upbringing, or, you know, basically you're a white guy. I'm not going to lie. I mean, like, that was the sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And then he would just do like a Def Poetry Jam lead-in anyway.
Yep.
And people,
that was it.
Do it anyway.
You know what I mean? He would do it anyway.
Exactly.
And then he would get like frustrated. I'll tell this one last story too. I'm going through my greatest hits with his daughters, Chris.
Yeah, as you should.
Is that, you know, one time we go to a commercial break, and I just done a line from the latest Seinfeld episode.
Yep.
Going to break. And so everyone on the floor laughs, and we're off camera, and he turns to me, he goes, "What was that?" And I'm like, "What do you mean, what was that?" He goes, "What was that?" And I'm like, "That was the latest line from Seinfeld." And he goes, "Pfft." And I'm like, "What was that?" And he goes, "Brothers don't watch Seinfeld." And what he was telling me is like, you know, so I'm doing this lyric, I'm making this reference, and I'm the one who's coming across as outside the norm. Mm. But what you just did is kind of outside the norm too. And nobody bats an eyelash about what you're doing.
Yep.
That's basically what I took from that conversation.
I love that you both brought your cultural backgrounds to the table, because it does create such a, like, I don't know, there's people who like Seinfeld and they like Def Jam poetry. And it's like, you reach both of those audiences.
Yep.
And I think that that's so special. And also, again, your work marriage. It was a very beautiful place to like proliferate. I don't know. I feel like sports is culture and culture is sports. So
Oh, no question. And
That's-
you're very kind to
and
say that
sharing
because
that,
half the time I had no idea what your father was saying.
and he didn't know what
Exactly.
he didn't know what someone said on Seinfeld.
Is it true somebody in the family was giving him lines and stuff like that? Was he tending like one of like your niece or nephew, one of your
Feeding him
cousins was feeding him like the latest rap lyrics and stuff? Like that was
So he did
like
stay.
he was on it.
He was on it.
Did
But
he
he
say
also
they
he also had his feelers out for him.
He
too.
did, and
That's-
I would say it was not. You know, he obviously he loved hip hop music, and here's the thing. Now I'm able to listen to hip hop music that he had to. He would literally drive with one hand on the volume
dial.
because he had to know all the songs so that he could censor it
Yep,
as he
as he's
drove.
driving.
And he would say
whether it's usable or not.
exactly when we were driving in the car. But at the same time, he was also a huge theater nerd. Like he was
Oh,
a
yeah.
theater kid.
Sure, yeah.
And so it's like you might come with like something from Snoop Dogg, or you might come with something from the musical Wicked. He would not stop listening to that either. And so there was always, I don't know, I really love, you can find so many touchstone moments in terms of reporting
Sure.
just from living in the culture and being with people.
And that's what happens when you let people be themselves.
Yeah.
You know, is that you get to reach those people, and everyone who's
Organically.
watching gets, like, again, you know, we've talked about it a million times, all these people who say, oh, you know, I watched your dad, you know, in the morning when I was eating, you know, breakfast before I went to school.
Yeah.
And it's just so special to me that it's like there are so many people that felt, you know, I don't want to say felt seen, but, you know, like felt like they like he was talking to them. And
doubt.
and that's an incredible thing to me. Like it's really, really incredible to me.
Well, I let's do this more often than 20 years.
Yes, absolutely.
Because I'll be a very old man if we waited till that time.
We'll bring the ice cream next time.
Exactly.
Please. I mean, I'm so thrilled that we're able to do this. And again, vfoundation.org, and make sure you give to the Stuart Scott Memorial Fund. And congrats on all your both successes and graduation, and go crush it like your dad would prefer and expect.
Exactly.
And
Thank you.
Taylor and Sydney Scott at Tae, T-A-E, and Sid, S-Y-D, on Twitter. I follow them. You should as well. Let's dig in right here on the Rich
Absolutely.
Eisen Show.
I've
All right,
already been-
scoops for Stu Day right here on the Rich Eisen Show.